Yes, it's finally happened. Antonio Cairoli has decided to retire at what will be 36 years old from the MXGP World Championship Series. But what a career it has been, and quite frankly, what a career it still is. We saw the last Grand Prix in Turkey, Cairoli's phenomenal performance whenever he refused to give in and caught from fourth to up to second and nearly actually passed Jeffrey Hurlings at the end of the race on the final turn to almost win that race. Cairoli is unbelievable. His speed is still there, but finally he's decided he's going to throw the towel in on a phenomenal Grand Prix career. Nine World Championships, 93 Grand Prix wins. And you have to say for me that he's one of the greatest of all time. You can easily put him in the conversation with Ricky Carmichael, with Stefan Everest, with Jean-Michel Beale, Jeremy McGrath, all those guys. Cairoli stands proud amongst those legends of the sport. As we say, we'll mention his age. He's done it against every level of rider. He's done it against Jeffrey Hurlings. He's done it against Tim Geiger. He's done it against Eli Tomac, Chad Reed, Ryan Villapoto. And I think a turning point for Cairoli, everybody in the World Championship knew how fast he was. But I think whenever Ryan Villapoto came over and those few Motocross of Nations wins, it really grew the respect over in America and beyond as well for what Tony's ability was. And as we look through these slides here, early on in his career, he was a very aggressive, amazing corner speed on a 250. He actually, I think, won his first World Championship riding with a broken scaphoid, a broken wrist. He had that taped up at the end of the season. Still battled through the pain there. Of course, he lost that title to Christophe Pourcel a year later, and then came back and won it again in 07, and then an injury thwarted his chances in 2008. But he also went, let's not forget, went up to the 450 class while he was still an MX2 rider at the end of the season at Donington and won on the 450 straight off the bat. Went into that championship, controlled it, I think is the most appropriate word. He was able to pick and choose his moments to attack. He didn't sprint generally for the full 30 minutes. He would wait and see, he would take a second or third, and of course, many times he would pour the gas on in the last 10 minutes to make his point, make his final push for the race win. Many races he did that to the likes of DeSalle, Philip Arch, Paulin. He always seemed to have a wee bit extra whenever he really needed it. When the points got close, he was able to step up his game. Didn't really get beat very many times in a row, quite similar to what Jeremy McGrath would have done in Supercross. And then we came to the Jeffrey Hurlings era. At that point, Hurlings seemed to up the intensity of the races, and you could no longer ride at a pace and then go for 2 or 3 laps to get the lead like Cairoli sometimes had before. Cairoli, he adapted, and this is one of the great things about the Italian. He adapted to the pace, and he took Hurlings on in 2017, moto to moto, even though he was the guy that was leading the World Championship. He wasn't scared to go head to head with him. And even in 2018, for me, that was one of Cairoli's most impressive seasons. He went as fast as he could for the entire race, and he was in his 30s at that point, and no one else could stay with Jeffrey Hurlings except Antonio Cairoli. The pace those two were pushing that year, I don't think anyone will ever forget it. And yet again, Cairoli's still producing now that he has a knee issue, relatively healthy again. He's shown what he can still do at approaching coming 36 years old by the end of this season. And I think everyone agrees that he is one of the greatest riders that have ever threw a leg over a bike. But to be honest, I'm still astounded at what he's able to do at this age. All those credentials, all that money, all those titles, everything he's done, his legacy's secured, and yet he still wants to push it. He wants to train hard in the winter. He wants to train hard during the season, and he isn't scared to risk as well during the races against in a very tough era. He's racing a 20-year-old Jorge Prado, who's his teammate, who he's no doubt helped over the last few years. He's racing him hard, and Prado's racing Cairoli hard as well. There's no quarter given. Jeffrey Hurlings, they've had their battles very close as well, and Tim Geiger and Cairoli have had some legendary battles as well. So Cairoli, whatever the rider is put up to him, he's able to step up to that level and give them a challenge. And he still could end up with 10 world titles, but whether he does or not, his performances even this year and what will be his final year in MXGP has been absolutely fantastic. And of course, the other thing about Cairoli that makes him a very special rider is the way he is with his fans, the way he treats people, how humble he is despite all his success. And if you ask anybody from even the American media to Stephen Everts, to anyone that has known or spoken to Tony, everyone can attest to his humility, his friendliness, and kind of a lack of ego for such a big champion whenever he's away from the track. Of course, on the track, incredibly determined, incredibly motivated, and incredibly fast. But off the track, you would hardly guess that he is the star that he is on the track, and the legend that he will now be forever because of the record book numbers that he has attained during the course of his career. So from everyone at GateDrop, very sad to see you leave the World Championship, Antonio Cairoli, but very proud to have followed your career, to have spoken to you and to enjoyed your amazing races and everything you've done for the sport. You will be a big miss to the sport, but thanks very much for everything you've done.